My name's Chris, and oh crap, there's no Kristie. This is the Washing Up podcast still, however. So what I decided to do was go out and find myself a couple of special guest hosts, people who might actually know something about cooking. I figured that would be the best way to replace Kristie's usual inappropriate banter. So what I've done is, first of all, friend of the podcast, MasterChef Australia winner, Elena Duggan. How are you going?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Wonderful to be able to talk to you again. And I think we needed someone a bit closer to the show as well. So I went really close to the show. Robert, how are we?
Hello, how are you?
We're wonderful. This is fun.
Yeah, watching that back was a little bit terrifying.
Well, it was fun for me.
Yeah. It was fun for me too, because I wasn't participating.
Yeah, you'd know all about it. So, yeah.
It was fun.
I don't know, watching that, it was just like flashbacks. Like, that was 4.5 hours of crepe flipping. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible precision and patience.
It's crazy. Absolutely. Again, that many crepes is crazy. We'll come to the crepes in a moment. So it's batter week. So before the two of you get to be all nice and friendly and wonderful, which is what, both of you are, nice and friendly and wonderful. It's batter week and I need to have my say. Batter week. Not.
All right. Okay, calm down, other redhead. It's okay.
Okay. I have to be fair with this because if I'm going to rant at Great British Bakeoff about making lace pancakes, then I have a mini rant about this. It's not baking. It's not baking. They're wonderful. They're brilliant. They're fantastic. For waffles, I wanted all of them, but they're not baking technically. Okay, somebody tell me I'm 100% wrong. Go.
I think in terms of like the waffle batter, the chemistry behind it is very much in line with baking chemistry. So I think that one is, I think it's included in baking.
We'll do it one at a time. We'll do it. Robert, are you going to defend it, Robert, or are you going to say it on the grounds of, that's what they told me to do, so I did it?
Well, put it this way, if I was going to go on a baking show and I had the choice of I'm going to bake something, waffles is the last thing that I'd ever think of. But like Elena said, does show some skills. I think they just throw it in there as can you make a batter rise properly? And also, this is just a chance for you guys to show off. So this was a chance to step outside of the box, a chance to go.
Yeah, it felt like a creative challenge for me.
Yeah, and I mean,
exactly. It's like you guys can bake. What else can you do? So,
like it was about the rising agent, and they did a big focus on you need that. So that was the focus. So it was almost like a second technical. The little bit of the conversation they had around that, which I liked the fact that they did that. I said I had my little rant, and for those out there, I agree with you, but we'll go with it because they said it's baking. It counts now. Now it could be sweet or savoury. But it had to have a topping. So we had a couple of really interesting ones. Marcus went with the tropical ones, which Matt once again questioned somebody's existence by looking at the pineapple and going, "You going to cook that?" I don't know. I would have panicked. He didn't. How do you cope with that, Robert, when Matt Morant comes up and starts asking questions?
Well, other people cope with it. I just kind of nod, smile, and go, okay.
I wasn't going to say that.
Marcus is the calmest, most centered person. If you could possibly get a bench near his while you were baking, it was the most awesome thing ever because it was just like this pool of calmness. It was incredible. It was contagious. Like he could have been on fire and you just go, Marcus has this sorted. He knows what he's doing. He's got this. It's going to be okay. Marcus is okay. I'm going to be okay. So you'd find the Dave and you'd find the Marcus in the shed and you just go, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. Matt just looked at me like I'm about to die, but we will get through this. So,
I mean, Elena, would you have kept the pineapple fresh or would you have cooked it?
I think it would depend on the pineapple. I know like Queensland Golds are incredibly sweet, almost sickly so, and almost are a bit syrupy in their own nature. So if it was one of those pineapples, you may not need to. But I really do like the caramelization, like the grill marks and all of that sort of thing on a cooked pineapple. And some of the ones that are maybe not quite as ripe, they may absolutely lend themselves to being grilled and kneaded. They may actually require it. It sounds like he was also, there wasn't enough syrup, so that could have been a good opportunity to sort of maybe even juice some of them and cook them in their own juices. So I think it depends on the pineapple.
It was really fun for me too, because it was sort of, and Robert, you can speak more to this. It was Marcus in a nutshell. It was this wonderful idea. It was like this fresh sort of flavors. And then there was that moment where they were talking about, have you tested this last night? And he went, yeah, I had the pineapple. It burnt my tongue a little bit. And it was so Marcus. It was wonderful. Just the look he gave Maggie too, when he was talking about, hurt my tongue a little bit. It was just that, go off Marcus. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. Raisa went with buttermilk with walnut ice cream and saffron pears. That seemed quite.
That looked so Belgian to me. I know that like with the saffron, etc., it's not quite on flavor or cuisine point, but it reminded me of syrupy, cinnamony, appley, delicious apples on waffles. It looked gorgeous to me. It was, I guess, a more traditional kind of take on it, with a couple of twists.
It was, yeah. They smelled and looked incredible. Like, this was the round of all rounds to be a part of. So the day or so before we were filming, everyone was madly practicing their waffles, and it was pretty sweet. So
everyone knew they were there.
Yeah. Well, we had an okonomiyaki night at my apartment one night. We had fried chicken at Chris's the next, and Claudia. Her mushroom waffles, I would pay a lot of money for another plate of those. They were amazing. That was the best lunch I've ever had. Yeah.
I had a bit of when they came up with waffles, my thought was the crew got there in the morning, realised they hadn't had breakfast, were really hungry. Waffles, it's batter week. Go.
Yeah.
Done.
So did everyone go with their initial idea, do you think?
I honestly don't know, but everyone was so sure of what they were doing in the waffles. Like, Raisa, to be able to balance out like saffron and all her other flavors and get it to actually taste of saffron in a waffle was just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It really did look glorious. Like every plate was a celebration.
It looks spectacular. There are a couple that I loved. I've always said I actually really like the savoury flavours. I loved corn batter with the salsa, the poached eggs, and the hollandaise. I thought that looked incredibly good, and I thought Barb had a really good week this week, and that was the start of it. That was sensational.
Yeah, that's totally flavours up my alley. That's breakfast and brunch for me set. That looked delicious. I'm with you. The savoury always appeals to me most, and as soon as you said okonomiyaki, Robert, I was over the moon, because that's one of my favourite things to make. It's sort of a bit of a go-to when you've got a handful of leftover veggies by the weekend, and it's easy to make gluten-free in terms of, like, I can just use a buckwheat batter. Yeah, I was so excited for that. That line and sinker.
Yeah, that's my I can't be bothered cooking anything. I have half a cabbage and a few slices of bacon in the fridge, and there's some sad-looking like spring onions hanging out.
But all of the flavours have got long life, so you can always have them on standby. You can always have sauce on standby, unless you, like, I've tried making some of my own, which are sugar-free, gluten-free versions, but you can still have it on standby. You can have the bonito on standby. Everything. Yep. So you can really make a full-on flavor dish in not very long.
And of course, for you, Robert, more importantly, it meets that mantra of I threw some bacon at it, which is it's kind of become your mantra. Although there were a few other people who threw some bacon at it too. By the way, I like the fact that Mel decided to refer to yours as the economy class ones, because she couldn't pronounce it.
I really liked that too. Yeah. That was great.
So it's going to be, the next drinking game is going to actually have, it was a suggestion on Twitter before, the next drinking game card will feature dish that is unpronounceable. That is going to be something. There were a few tonight where you could just see when they went with it, nobody on Twitter wanted to type. Cause
I reckon you could have ingredient that was unpronounceable as well, or what? Like,
what is on the cards? What is on the cards? I've got a few things paired up. We'll reveal those a little bit later. Also, when it came to savoury, we had Chris's chicken and bacon waffles with a white pepper gravy and Tabasco, because let's face it, setting up to kill Maggie beer is not, a rarity in the head. So white pepper gravy and Tabasco, and just put it out there and go, right, Maggie, would you like some Tabasco?
All right, that sauce packed a punch, but it wasn't that deadly. But yeah, probably, yeah.
I thought it was the simply sweetness that bothered her in that shot because of the maple and then brown sugar on top of that. I was like, whoa, that's so sweet.
No, it packed a punch. The sweetness really, like the chicken just had the right amount of saltiness and had all the bacon and, it's so good. But when they stopped filming, we just about had a riot trying to get at Chris's chicken.
Yeah, it looked incredible.
I can relate to that. Carmen made chicken waffles for Nigella, and we had a bunch of practice beforehand. We were trying to get the just right chicken waffles, and it was, I can relate to that.
It just looked, they looked sensational. And again, and it was mentioned on the show, and it was, you guys were talking about it on Twitter. Nobody in this first round made a bad dish. There was not a single one where you looked at it and went, that's not, well, there's one for me, but we'll come to that in a moment. Claudia.
No, that's your own issue. I know
that's my issue. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm not working through it. I'm not prepared to work through it. Claudia, as you've mentioned, but as you said, they looked incredible. And I like the fact that you've got waffles, but you've got maple speck and quail egg. That was sensational.
What was most amazing about those was just the balance of the chestnut flour with the hazelnut. Like, you just about get goosebumps. And then she had the porcini powder in it, and she had about 5 different kinds of mushrooms, and it was so good. Like, find that recipe, make that recipe, eat it. There is nothing you'll eat ever that'll taste as good as that.
I'm looking forward to
I'm really excited because that's totally up my jam with all of the different types of mushrooms and the porcini powder and the hazelnut chestnut it really intrigued me. So I hope that she shares that recipe.
They're all on lifestyle, aren't they, Robert?
Yep, they usually, it depends on how quick they are with getting them to the website, but they're usually on shortly after the show. They hit lifestyle.com.au/Bakeoff.
I will keep an eye out.
They're usually pretty fast, and they're good fun to have a bit of a look at and a bit of a attempt to try to make them too. I mean, obviously, you'll have far more success than the rest of us, Elena. Now I have to mention Dave. Right. So this is my issue, Robert, I know. But I'm not going to let it go. All right? I looked at them and they're green.
Let's just say Disney princess that shit and get over it, mate. Like, come on. Let it go.
I put it in the middle of the drinking game card for a reason. Now, I looked at them and I went, okay, these flavors could be interesting. And I looked and went, that's green. Don't do it. Don't do it. Matcha. Now, my problem with matcha is it's just done to death. Just switch it up. It's like yuzu. I actually like the flavour of yuzu, all truth be told. But it's just being done to death. So that's my problem.
The chocolate's been done to death.
Yeah, but we expect chocolate to be done to death. That's an expectation.
You just don't like matcha because it's a hipster thing.
See, I really love matcha, and in that,
me too.
It's.
Welcome to the matcha podcast.
I think it just needs the right balance of other things with it that don't overpower it either. That aren't what, sorry?
That aren't matcha.
Well, in terms of like dark bitter chocolate has it doesn't captivate everybody, but the people who love it really love it. And I think matcha has a similar bitterness to it. So if you enjoy some bitter flavors, I think you would appreciate it more.
Yeah, look, I don't necessarily mind matcha itself as a flavour. Again, I drink long black coffee, so bitter is up my alley.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that every time somebody does something on a television cooking show, there's matcha involved. I'm like, no, stop it, please, stop it. And I am actually a little bit over chocolate too, but we'll come to that later. So
can I just point out, like, Dave's waffles were the most awesome and weird thing I've ever eaten. Somehow he managed to made mochi crunchy on the outside. So, and they weren't chewy. Like they had the right amount of elasticity and chew that you'd expect from mochi. Like if I was to try and waffle up some mochi, it would be like boot leather. He got it perfect.
Totally. I don't know how he did it either. It was a textural sensation by the looks of things. I would definitely be up for trying those.
Yeah, the mochi.
Yeah, I just tried one of those and went, "You're a wizard, Dave. What's that?"
The mochi looked really good. I actually love that idea. I thought it was a really good idea, and it looked sensational. I just have issue with matcha, but
I was excited to see both you and he use Japanese flavors when Maggie Beer is so on board with all things Japanese cuisine at the moment. I was like, they're trying to appeal to Maggie's taste buds.
Do your homework. don't do what Chris did and include spice.
Yeah.
What was that?
Don't do what Chris did. Don't put spice in there. You know what's going to happen if you put spice in there.
Do you know what? In all fairness, Maggie doesn't handle spice well, but she knows how spice should taste, and she's like, "Yeah, that's good. It's killing me, but it's good."
Oh yeah, you can judge it.
Sorry.
Or for example, don't present something that's bubblegum flavored. Hey Emma, how you going?
That was so yummy though.
No. When we talked about it on Emma's episode of the podcast, we said the same thing, which was it looked amazing, but that moment of Maggie eating like this raw bubblegum batter and Emma in her head going, "No, don't eat that raw. I wouldn't eat that raw." It's really sweet, you think? So now without Kristie being here tonight, I thought that Mel's impression of her mum eating Thai fried rice sort of reminded me of a Kristie moment. Which was like, oh, they've put it back in the pineapple and everything. It was a Kristie impression that was worthy, so it was my little moment. Now, I like that Maggie's waving of hands and sighing is now either her excited reaction or a potential seizure. I couldn't quite tell, because it was like that was the excited reaction, but the judging was basically, "You're all awesome."
Yeah, I really love that too. I think in terms of when you're trying food, you're still trying to savor what's going on, but you're so keen to tell people how great it is, so you have to use body language.
Yeah.
So I love that she gets excited right to her fingertips and almost has little jazz hands going on there.
It was
I totally relate to that when you taste something and you just want to keep tasting it, but you also want to congratulate whoever made you feel that way.
So future bakers in the shed, what you need to remember is what you want from Maggie is spirit fingers.
Isn't that what you want from everyone?
Oh yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Life would be a lot better if everyone walked around with spirit fingers. So
a lot more eye accidents, but you get that.
What you need to do is you borrow Claudia's onion goggles and you're set. Her dame Edna onion goggles. You put those on, no one's getting hurt by spirit fingers, and you can cut an onion.
True story.
The more you know.
Yeah.
So the technical. Now, I don't even need to start with Clafouti. I have to start with one thing and one thing only, which is I like uniform symmetrical balls. Thank you very much, Matt.
Isn't the definition of a sphere symmetrical? I don't know why it had to be said so often.
Spoken like a true art teacher. It's a sphere, of course. It's
exactly. Putting logic in it. This isn't year 7. This isn't year 7 art. We're not explaining this contextually. We're explaining this in the innuendo shed that is Bakeoff, and I can almost think that before they went in, one of the producers went over to Matt and went, "So, you know what this show is, right?
How many times do you reckon you can say it?
How about we say uniform symmetrical balls a lot?" And Matt just went, "Gotcha." So Apple clafouti. Now, I didn't want to type this at all on Twitter until I waited till the Bakeoff account did it and then went, thank you, I'll take that now. So,
yep, good move.
What can the two of you tell all of us about apple clafouti? Because to be honest with you, I had no idea what the hell it was.
Yeah. I have made them for quite a few years, but I would make a traditional cherry one, and I tend to make mine a little heavier on the base side. The sort of it's almost friand in texture at the bottom. So where this one had a lot more flan or custard sort of in ratio to the bottom, the base, I tend to even mine out a little bit more and have more base. So it's, I guess, a little bit more in between a cookie base, because it goes quite caramelly rather than the soft top. And yeah, cherries are definitely traditional. And so when they're in season, they're a joy to put in. And they naturally come almost sphere shaped. So no cutting.
Back to it again. It's your matcha at the moment. This is just now, Robert, as the expert in making these, because clearly, you all were just, and you were the one giving advice to people as to when to take them out of the oven. So we'll
it's one of those things where if you're making something that's got like a semi-custard on the middle of it, like, yes, you know that it's a batter, so it has to kind of hold together. But as soon as you take it too far, the inside goes like scrambled egg. So
yeah,
I wanted it. Yeah, I wanted it silky smooth on the inside, and I got that. But it takes it to a whole other level when you caramelize the top of those apples. That was a bit that was missing from the recipe. Nothing in the recipe mentioned crisp off the top. All we had to do was
the look or the timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, as somebody watching it, not having to do it, it's one of my favorite parts of Bakeoff. When you get to that moment where the judges go, you know what? We're not going to tell you the middle bit. We're going to leave a step out. It's like in the British one where Mary Berry used to get to the point where she'd just go make a cake. And that would be it.
Well, that's fair enough. It's a baking show. Make a cake is a simple instruction. Yeah, if you can't do that, it shouldn't be on a baking show. But anyway.
A specific one. So she'd like name whatever one she wanted, but wouldn't give them any steps or timing. And then bake till ready. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was the grand total of the instructions. They're always fun. For the people at home watching, for you, a nightmare.
Yeah.
Now,
I just like it because it's like, now we're going to expose your ignorance and then grind it in a little bit while we're at it.
But it's definitely not ignorance. The cooking world is infinite. You cannot be expected to know absolutely everything about everything. So it's it's definitely not testing your ignorance, I don't think.
I think
I know how to do this. Yeah, I've seen this before. And I'm going, what the hell is this? Quick, look it up. Come on, look it up. No.
Yeah, well, even with the Fraser cake, I'm like, they do the reveal and they tell you what it is, and I still have no idea. None whatsoever.
My favourite one of those challenges ever in Bake-Off history remains British Bake-Off, and it remains the damp noodle, where they it and they went, you've got to make a damp noodle, and everyone in the tent just looked at each other and went, what? I don't know what this is. And the person that got it right was the person who seemed to be bumbling their way through the challenges and had no idea what the hell they were doing, and she just happened to stumble across the perfect damp noodle. And
wow.
She's like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. At least this one was down to, can you make a batter, cook it, and get the right flavour out of it? And Chris and Barb got the right flavour out of it by really just having the patience to leave it in there and trust that it won't go funny.
Yeah, as you said, you don't want scrambled egg texture either, so it is a fine line. You sort of have to make a choice whether you do one or the other. I'm sure that yours was delicious as well. It's
It was, but it was just like the flavour was muted because it didn't have that beautiful crispy top.
And was
so it's like a creme brulee without the brulee.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
it's like the brulee to me.
Yeah.
I was just looking at it going, is this just a giant creme brulee? And again, for the non, semi-professional / professional cook, chef, baker, whatever out there, what is the difference between, how is it a batter and not just a custard? Again, is it?
It's got flour in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got flour in it, and it actually forms a crust on the outside.
Cool. Beautiful. That's all I needed to know. That's what I was after.
Similar to those impossible pies or impossible cakes or whatever they're called. They go in almost liquid and somehow form several different layers because of the flour content and a few other bits and pieces.
One of the more scientific
they're the best.
I've ever had. So I have to ask you the question, why raisin puree?
Because it tastes so nice on the bottom. Okay, I'll make you happy. The raisin puree had apple brandy in it.
This was a bigger point for everybody at home, and I had a couple of other people who commented on this too. Apple had the brandy, and there was no time on the recipe. So you'd all been sampling a recipe with apple brandy, and then you had no cooking time on the actual recipe. How could this challenge ever fail? I don't know. Booze.
Well, it was delicious. It was just, It
was a wonderful, wonderful challenge. And I loved everyone just looking around at each other, asking this question. Like Raissa was the one they kept on going back to. Have I left something out? This can't be it.
She had a terrified look on her face.
Well, I mean, Robert, you can, again, for the Bakeoff shed in the last few weeks especially, when it's been right to the wire, with this one, it must have been really disconcerting. Everyone put it in and went, we're done. Are we wrong?
Yes. That challenge could have, like, the timing on that was a complete red herring. So we could have taken a lot longer with the prep at the beginning.
Yep.
And taken it out a full half hour early and still been fine if we had have just cranked up the oven really, really high at the end to glaze off the top. So it really was do you know what this is? Do you know how to get the flavour out of it? So
yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. It was an interesting it's an interesting sort of concept as well, when they gave you so much time knowing that you'd probably have extra left over. And just sort of, I think also there's a bit of they wanted to see what your reaction would be to time and knowing when something was done. And so it's a case
it was a brilliant technical, because it really, it threw all of us. Even, I think Claudia may have made one before.
Her comment was she saw them in books.
Yeah, well, yeah.
She's like, I've never made one. I've seen it.
Yeah, fair enough. You see, this is where we needed Max. Max would have been great.
Max,
where was our Frenchie?
But anyway. I also love Marcus's little, I should wear a beret and moustache, but it's hard to get a curly moustache.
Yeah, adorable.
I'm going to miss that.
I love Marcus.
He's awesome. Yeah. And Barb then wondering exactly how hard it was to make symmetrical balls. So
harder than you'd expect. Like, seriously, using a melon ball to get spheres out of an apple. Yeah, it's harder than you'd expect.
Well, I imagine it'd be hard to find a big enough apple.
Yeah. I
was looking at it, and when they had Dave doing it, and they showed Dave, it looked like he had one of the smallest apples on the planet, and he was trying to get this ball out of this apple, and it almost looked like he was coring the apple, but from the side. It just that's what it looked like, because it was such a small apple. I'm like, they're going, you can't get one of those from that apple. There's no chance, and he did. I'm like, wow.
I was surprised as well. I was like, where is all of that flesh coming from? Because it just doesn't look like there's enough.
Yeah, you got to scrape right down next to the core and squidge all around a bit. Yeah, technical term there. Anyway,
those are the best ones.
The other epic
totally.
The other epic Marcus moment of this challenge for me was when Marcus upped the vanilla content on the recipe.
Yes.
And when Matt tasted it and said that I love the vanilla on that, Marcus gave a look for the ages. There was an attitude look from Marcus like, I told you.
Yeah, but, okay, who actually measures vanilla? Just saying.
No, I know. Nobody. I just, that looks rough. That's okay. Bit more.
I love vanilla. I always put way more than is necessary. Definitely one of my go-to flavors.
So that's what you should do. Like when I make waffles, when I make plain waffles, I put a hell of a lot more vanilla in than you're usually supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing. It's that flavour. It just carries it, and it stops it from being just a bland batter. It gives it that little bit more of a punch.
Yeah, and for me, with like as I was talking about buckwheat batters and other nut-based batters, it sort of gives it a bit of a kick that you would otherwise get in a high sugar, high gluten content batter.
It makes it feel like there's sugar.
Yeah, kind of. Yep.
Yeah. And if you can just add enough salt to it,
yeah, well, that's where you would add spices and other flavors to things rather than adding sugar or salt if you needed to. It definitely, you can appeal to a wider range of flavors and senses, and the experience is more enjoyable. Yeah.
In other words, you can get people who are going, where's the sugar, to go, try this. No, it tastes, I promise you.
Exactly.
It tastes like, I promise you. That could be useful maybe next week, Robert, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So we have to mention it. I've avoided it long enough. Apple's all popped up and happy to see you.
Oh, amazing. So amazing.
Maggie. And what I loved about that was Maggie genuinely had absolutely no idea what she did.
Oh, I know. That was the best bit.
And Matt Moran just deadpan trying to save it, going, that's what it's all about. Presentation, Maggie. And it was so good. And everybody lost it. And Maggie's losing it, but Maggie's losing it because she doesn't know why.
She's laughing at everyone else laughing, not at knowing what's going on.
And Matt was in this middle point of, I know why that's funny.
But I also can't tell you because I need to keep you innocent.
I don't
Maggie
want to be
does so many of those throughout the show. They don't all get caught on camera, but she absolutely slays us. She just will come out with something so innocent and wonderfully profound, and it's an epic double entendre. And if you're anywhere near Chris, Barb, like Claire or Mel, or even Matt, they split their sides. They just,
That is the genius of casting Maggie Beer, because she is just a wonder all in her own. I love it. I love it.
It's brilliant. So Chris and Barb sort of went against everybody else. Everybody else sort of took them out a bit earlier. Chris and Barb just seemed to have this staring contest with everybody, including themselves. And they ended up trumping it. So Barb ended up first. Chris ended up second. Dave and Claudia ended up at the bottom end with ones that they said that were too firm. You were sort of in the middle, Robert, with Marcus. So it was interesting that you and Marcus were sort of in the middle. And then we get to
I think we got texture. We didn't quite get that crunchiness on the top.
And then we get to the showstopper. So,
Crepe.
This is like, this is like Nam. This is like Nam for you, isn't it? It's okay.
Okay, this and the Vamoiserie, they were mammoth. So you've got all the standing up before you go in, and then all the filming and all the day before and all that sort of stuff. But then the actual bake being 4.5 hours after you've done the 2.5 hour before the day before, and the other 2 hour challenge the day before. That's a lot of filming the day before and a lot of standing up. Then you've got all the intros and everything for the next day. And it's 4.5 hours of trying to stay focused on cooking crepes with the wind blowing your gas out. Just going, why? Come on, make this work.
Because the sides of the shed being open doesn't actually exactly sort of make it a calm environment in there.
It makes it interesting, but everybody's got to deal with that, and it's how well you can deal with that makes all the difference. So,
have you had to create little wind barriers against the flames like we did?
Yeah, there might have been a couple of Maggie Beer Verjuice cookbooks used as a nice windbreaker with a few nice spots. Yeah.
We had the option of using bricks, but it was almost essential to be able to get anything to cook, because otherwise your flame just kept going out.
Yeah.
But go
on. Claudia and Barb and the rest of them were smart enough to use 2 pans. I went, no, I can do this in 4.5 hours with 1 pan. I'll be fine.
I did notice the fact that you didn't seem to have a second pan around.
I just planned that so badly. So
it's like
I ran out of time so much.
The first cut to you was, I got this. And about halfway through the cut to you was, oh crap.
I don't got this.
Now, just before we start talking about the showstopper, I should mention here that having you two on the show at the same time is not a coincidence. You two have a bit of a history.
That sounds like a Matt Moran maybe a comment.
Wow.
On the podcast.
We have met before.
Elena was my table buddy when I tried out for MasterChef years and years and years ago. Well, it wasn't that long ago. When was it? It was
2015.
Well, that
sounds
counts
right.
years now.
Well,
Yeah,
I suppose it does.
2015. We were on the table together at our very first auditions, which was pretty cool. And my family and your family got on like a house on fire, which sort of, I think, helped calm us down because they weren't talking to us a million miles an hour.
Yeah, that kind of helps. Yeah, they talk to each other more. It's great.
Yeah, so we could just sit there and hyperventilate together in silence.
Yeah, we were on totally different levels though. Like Elena gets up and just busts out the most incredible meals every time without fail, without missing a step. And I freaked out because of the equipment, and I got some nice macarons out. But
They were
They were just nice. Yeah, but they were just nice.
Get through because I was like, I want to live with Robert. He's so lovely.
You know, on the plus side for you, that equipment freak out could have then prepared you for, you know, like Barb last week dropping her mixer on the floor and it's still working and still beating stuff while it was sideways on the floor. I mean,
amazing. Yeah. Oh, I missed that.
Oh, there's a GIF online. It is one of the best baking GIFs ever. The mixer falls on the floor. It's still mixing, and Barb just picks it up and keeps it going.
That's incredible. Yeah. I love that.
Because Barb is rock solid. She's like, nah, I got this. She might be panicked on the inside. She might be having a complete meltdown, but you'd never know it because she's like, okay, the mixer's on the floor. The dough's still on the hook. The bowl's still attached. I got this.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I did like seeing her go through sort of various stages of doubt all the way through to confidence when she was waiting for her clafouti. She's like, well, it might not, but it could. And no, it's gonna. It's fine.
And then there's Robert there going, take it out, Bob. Bob, take it out. Bob. Yeah. No, seriously, take it out. Take it out.
That's the thing. Like, I'm sure it's the same with you guys on MasterChef. Like, I only got to see very, very briefly. And for me, like, I'm a cake decorator. I love cake decorating. That's my life. That's what I enjoy the most. So MasterChef was completely wrong for me.
People like you that do that in the world because I do not enjoy it.
No.
Yep. And that's why Bakeoff was for me. So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's it. I would never decorate a cake. I don't ice the full cake when I make one. I ice the top of it if I'm icing it. I don't
even make icing.
Yeah, well, most of the time I don't. Most of the time, if I make a cake, there's no icing on it, and everyone goes, "Why?" Oh, I just wanted the flavour of the cake to. No, I'm not making icing, and
I'll give you a sauce or I'll give you ice cream, but I'm not much of an icer.
I have a palette knife for icing. And I don't use it. It sits in the drawer. I bought it. It looks pretty. I don't use it. I've never used it. In fact, no.
I very much appreciate the painstaking time spent and attention to detail every time you post a new cake. I'm like, wow, that's just exquisite. I love it.
You know, one of us here has made a doll out of modelling chocolate. I'm not saying who. You know, and that might have captured Twitter's heart, Robert. That might have captured Twitter's heart. So onto a challenge that didn't really capture anybody's heart, not because it wasn't wonderful in terms of what was produced, but because you had to make 60 layers. Now, it did give us, for me, the best bad joke we've had this series, which was Mel's Radiohead joke.
Oh, it was brilliant. I love that. I love that the laughing wasn't a full-on guffaw by everyone. It was just a sort of a trickle and an internal heavy-shouldered chuckle that took a little while, but it was good. I liked it.
Do you know why the laugh was probably more soft with that one? Because the first time that joke went round, a couple of us just full-on donkey hee-haw brayed, and the rest of them are standing there looking like, huh? And then,
it was a moment.
So they recut that joke, and everyone's like, I found that funnier. I found that so much funnier.
Yeah, but it normally when the second one has to be done and everyone then has to laugh, that's always funnier than the genuine. That was really funny. It's like, humor. Humor.
Yeah.
So
I think Barb and I might have struggled the most with Claire and Mel's jokes because we love really dumb humor, and like not dumb humor, but we love puns and things that are like surprising and kind of good old dad jokes. And
you get on so well with myself and Kristie, and obviously, you know, again, and you can speak to this too. You know, teachers, we
we got to amuse ourselves somehow.
Yeah,
bit of wordplay, lots of alliteration, a pun at least once a period. You have to. I mean, my blog is full of them as well.
But when you've got two of Australia's best comedians busting out dad jokes, it catches you off guard because you're like, you say what?
We do this for a living, and
that's so funny.
Did you ever pause and applaud?
Yep.
I love it. So good.
Because we love puns.
I love them so much.
Because we love puns, obviously, because you know, we've made a podcast.
Yeah. Can you feel me trying to like direct you away from the crepes? So,
I know what you're going to do, Robert. But you should also remember, I'm far too experienced to let you out that easily. So I'm just going to, I wasn't even going to open talking about your crepes, but you know what? We're going directly to yours.
Oh, that's good. We can get it over and done with and move on.
First of all, Frangelico, thank you for bringing the booze. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can't go wrong with Frangelico and Cointreau and Amaretto.
They're orange liqueur, Robert. Orange liqueur. Not Cointreau.
Yeah.
Remember, you can't brand name it. But no, Frangelico cream, chocolate cream. They look amazing. It looked amazing in terms of while you were putting it together, it looked amazing. Then you had one of the lines of the series when you went, I was going for refined elegance, which was then followed by you roughly manhandling a stack of grapes.
Yeah, what needed to happen there was those crepes needed to be assembled in the fridge for a good half hour, just standing there and setting up. And then chocolate ganache and nice modelling chocolate flowers on the top. That didn't happen. Didn't get close. So,
and Matt was going, it looks really plain. And I'm there going, he iced it. What?
Yeah, I was wondering as well. I was sort of like, well, he did something a little bit different. It's not necessarily plain. I actually like the appeal of you not knowing what's inside. That the surprise is a part of the appeal to me, and I don't think that's boring at all.
It just wasn't quite fully realised. It didn't reach its potential.
It didn't reach its potential. There we go. There we go. And yours didn't quite reach its potential. We'll come to the informal shortly. Raíces were lemon, lime, and orange with the lemon curd, the raspberry coulis, the meringue. The colours looked incredible. The colours of what she was putting together looked amazing. So they were really bright. We had 2 ombres, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
2 ombres.
I think there was more than 2 ombres, but yeah.
Yeah, but the others didn't call
those.
Yeah.
Nah.
So Barb with blueberries, which instantly had me go into the Violet Beauregard gifts. Violet, you're turning violet. And then Dave's with the watermelon raspberry, and I'm not even going to try. You want to? What was the flavour?
Oh, I've already forgotten, but yes, that the flower.
Osmanthus.
Sounds like osmanthus. I think that's it, but I don't remember.
We all know what we're talking about, so that's good.
Osteoporosis is what we're going with. So, but what I liked about it was it just looked like 3 giant macarons.
Oh, absolutely, really gorgeous.
It was stunning. And the texture.
And they were freakishly fluffy. They were so light. He got them so thin and so sponge-like. They were beautiful.
Wow.
The man's a magician. I'm just like, dark magic.
Dave that needs to go on a card somewhere. Freakishly fluffy.
Yep.
And Matcha wizard.
And no, not a Matcha wizard. We don't over it, Elena. Why would you do that to me?
We don't mention the Matcha?
We don't mention the Matcha. I loved what I actually did love about this challenge, and again, I have my concerns about just it's a layer of 60 crepes, not necessarily baking, but leave that to one side. I loved the layers when they did the cut and did the cross section because I love a good cross section. And one of the reasons why I like the YouTube show, if people haven't seen it, Binging with Babish.
One of the best.
Where he makes all the food from TV and movies. And he always does an epic cross-section. This was an epic cross-section show.
It really was.
And one of
it
my
was
favorite,
so satisfying.
Chris's cross-section, I adored that red velvet cross-section.
It was beautiful.
Sensational.
So impressive.
So they were all brilliant there. Claudia, we'll have to talk about Claudia. So the Black Forest, just wow.
Stunning.
That one was so soul destroying because I've got my white stump with a couple of flowers on top of it. And I look across and Claudia's got this stunning forest of like piped chocolate and bunnies and gorgeous. Just it was breathtaking.
She had two fry pans on the go though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's smart.
Thoroughly traditional.
No explanation of what comes into your mind during those moments when you see someone else doing something efficient. You're like, why did that not enter my head?
Oh, I should have used more than one. Oh, that
would have given you probably a third more time to do all of the stuff that you wanted to do. It's just that you can't beat yourself up over it because you just couldn't in that moment.
No, but also the flip side of it is that I would have also had a third more burnt crepes. Because 2 pans on the go is more than I can cope with. But I know my limitations. That is one of them.
I mean, you really need Dave's level of Zen-like focus on that. Because I loved watching Dave do it, where he's got the one on the burner and the one that he's filling up. And he's just robotically just sort of moving them between. And again, I'm going with the cyborg programming that I've said, that I think that Dave is working beautifully in that shed. Where
like I said, if you can get close to Dave or Marcus in the shed, they are these pools of calmness that just they radiate calmness like you wouldn't imagine, and it really has a good positive effect on you.
I mean, to give you an idea, Elena, because I know you didn't see the first episode, Dave decided that his peace and his tranquility and his sort of Zen moment was piping flowers.
Oh,
and
darling.
He piped this amazing run of flour, hand piped. It is incredible. And Maggie's gone, did you do that? Yeah. It's what I do when I'm stressful.
Can I just say, check out Dave's Instagram at the moment. He has got the most breathtaking wreath of flowers on his Instagram.
I don't know.
The piped buttercream, and it's amazing. It's Dave Yan, or it's Dave DeLovely. Give me a second and I'll find it on my phone.
I got it. Dave Yan DeLovely. Yeah.
Dave Yan DeLovely. D-E Lovely.
Find what you're talking about so that I can be equally amazed. They're just gorgeous. Look at them.
And he just did it, and it wasn't a case of like he was pressed for time. He was not even slightly rushed for time. He was just piping away madly, and everyone else is like running around like headless chickens and trying to bake stuff. And there's just casually piping away an entire, bouquet of flowers on top of a cake. How are you doing this? It's incredible. And it was
the sooner you find your happy place, the better. And it's wow. I'm looking at his work. It's totally incredible.
And
they look really realistic.
And we also have to mention now Marcus's. So Marcus's, the idea of the ganache and the praline, and then the star anise. Now, he got warned. There's a problem when Matt Moran warns you when you're talking about your ingredients. And goes, so star anise can overpower. And he's like, yeah, I know. And sure enough, when they got to the judging, that was the first thing they said. Was it just overpowered. I was intrigued by the fact they mentioned your layers too. And I loved the way that you were like the school child brought in for a detention. Did you do that? No. How many, are there 60 layers there? Yes, there are. Were there 60 layers there, Robert?
I think they were just on 60 layers. The problem with mine is that I was supposed to layer it up 5 black, 5, not black, but 5 brown, 5 white, 5 brown, 5 black.
Oh, okay.
And I did them one on one with a really thin smear of the creams between them. So it just all looked like there was only about 30.
You lost the height.
Yeah, it looked nice in the cut, but it wasn't as defined and clear and easy to see as it could have been.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And just think back to then Barb's one, where they were talking about Barb's and went, how many layers there? And she's gone, 75. Just
Yep.
Wow.
I've gone.
Busted it out. She was such a machine, and she managed to make a crepe cake look elegant. Like that could have been a wedding cake.
Yes.
Like, how do you make a crepe cake look like it could be a wedding cake? Her and Claudia just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, they both look spectacular. The texture, Claudia's textures every week are just out of this world. They just look amazing. And Barb's been, last couple of weeks, Barb's just been locked in a zone where she's just been churning out quality after quality after quality bake.
She looked like she was having a really good time in this episode. It was nice to see her enjoying herself so much. Whereas I think Claudia still seemed to have quite a bit of self-doubt. She's fantastic at everything that she does, but she sort of seemed to, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if she was enjoying it quite as much. So I hope that she is.
And I like the description of Raíces, which was a carnival. But there was the acidic and both too acidic and too sweet in the same bake, which was interesting.
Yes,
balanced itself out. It was fine.
Therefore, it was great. And again, the problem that I said with Marcus's was Matt said it just wasn't a showstopper. It looked to me like something that what I would do, which is I would have done a stack and then probably just drizzled like Nutella. And he said chocolate ganache. I was wondering if it was Nutella. It looked a little bit like it.
Yeah, I actually really liked Marcus's because I love strong licorice flavors. If he had backed off on the star anise a bit, I would have been out. Like we're splitting hairs at this end of the competition.
I really like star anise.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. I use it in a lot of different things.
It was close.
It was a really, especially the technical was super close. The first round was everybody did good. That's the ideal round. Everybody scored 100. There's no way to split that first round. It was just everyone was incredible. Who was slightly more incredible?
Yeah.
And when it came to the crepe cake, it was all on the crepe cake because they couldn't split it for the top two rounds.
See, now I'm going to be not controversial, but I'm going to sort of disagree with Judge's final decision on Star Baker. And you don't have to comment, Robert, because I'm not going to make you comment on this. I, however, will. I thought Barb was Star Baker. And I know that Claudia's Black Forest was out of this world, but Claudia also came last in the technical and Barb came first. And Barb,
I think you're underestimating how insanely good those.
I'm not underestimating.
Hazelnut and yeah.
No, I'm not underestimating at all. My comment on that, my follow-up to that is that I've often had also sort of not criticised, but often sort of talked about the idea of sometimes it feels like it's all on the showstopper and they just ignore the first two rounds. And
it's funny because when you're watching the show, it totally feels like that.
Mm.
Like you watch it and you go, oh yeah, this person totally had it. I don't understand that. But when you're actually on the show and you're listening to the full critiques, like the technical judging, even though they're tasting the same thing and you see it on the screen and it looks like it happens in 3 minutes, that takes nearly an hour. Like they are so thorough. They are splitting hairs. They're taking notes. They are insane. And they genuinely don't know who's cooked what. And like, that's just the technical. That's the fast one.
Yeah.
The other ones, so much bigger.
And the thing was, again, for me, it wasn't like a horrible travesty, in her Claudia getting it. I just thought that Barb's week was pretty strong. One of the things
she was on fire.
One of the things that does reinforce to me though is the quality of baking this series, and not just saying this because you're like here. The quality of baking this series has been outstanding.
Oh, that's fine. I'm quite willing to say if someone's done something poorly, I'll be like, yeah, that was crap. But no, this season was.
It's been.
We were doing all right. Yeah, it's kind of nice to be a part of something where you have a perfect round and then they find it hard to split the top end.
That's beautiful. And that you all eat together, and I love it. It's I think you've all lifted one another, and yeah, it's great.
And it's been living up to its billing as, you know, the happiest show on television and the friendliest show on television, which is, you know, something that it sort of came out of the last series as well, was that it's like everyone getting along, helping each other, just baking awesome stuff. And, you know, that's what the audience likes.
Yeah, I mean, Elena will be able to attest to this, but I've always watched baking shows and gone, why are they crying? I don't get it. They've known each other a week and then they're sobbing because someone's left. Okay, by the end of that first episode, we had been together for probably 72 hours, constantly on the go, like in a high-pressure situation.
The way that I sort of can relate to how I think that works is, yes, high pressure situation, but when you see people going, you feel a little bit like that could be your dreams breaking a little bit, or that's your heart breaking a little bit, and you don't want someone to stop doing what they love, or that to be too much of an obstacle, or like you are genuinely heartbroken for them in that moment because it could be you.
Yeah, you know what you've gone through, and you know what you've gone through, so you can only imagine what they've done.
Also, it's a bit funny because we're all each other's biggest fans on the show. Like, like really want to see everyone do well, and when someone else does well, it's like the best thing ever. So that waffle round was just like my heaven. It was so great, and I think everyone else felt the same as well.
Yeah,
totally.
It makes such a difference when everyone can celebrate one another and you can all pat each other on the back and go, wow, look at you, look what you did, look at all of us, this is amazing, how great is this?
This series, people have gone home in this series not because someone had this horrible moment and things went badly. People have gone home this series just because everyone's baked so well and someone's just done a little bit more than someone else. It's not a absolute catastrophe and someone's gone home moment. It's a, you know, everyone's baked brilliantly. One of you has to go. That's the competition. And
yeah, this is the pointy end where it gets really like, no, it could be absolutely anybody.
As we refer to it, it's the kill your darlings rounds where you don't want anyone to go and you really don't want anyone to leave. And it doesn't matter who goes home. You're sort of bracing for it. But Marcus obviously going this week, and that was a bit painful. Although I did love the fact that they all got you up for a big dance at the end.
That was the best. I loved it. Oh.
Okay, before we started most bakes, we would have a dance-off, just the most epic dance-off ever. So that's why they put the nut bush on so loud, the utensils were shaking in the drawers. I mean, nut bush for all we were worth.
Because, I mean, you had a really big dancing moment where, you know, you went off and demonstrated some of your ballroom skills and Marcus every week, it seemed like on camera. And my personal favourite is the GIF of the Marcus dancing, which cut back to Mel and Claire both dancing, and just Mel's little move is still, it's a gift that is life. It is a gift that is life. So I'll retweet that one again because I think it deserves a retweet. So any last sort of thoughts on the episode from either of you?
No, I just kind of devastated. You guys.
Sorry, I guess I was thrilled to watch it and see, as we've all commented on, that waffle round, everyone having a joyful time, regardless of whether we think it is baking or not. Everyone had a great time. Everyone had an opportunity to show a little part of themselves in that, with that sort of creative freedom, and then everybody celebrated one another after it. I think that was a massive highlight for me, and definitely would be warming the hearts of audiences all around.
And you, Robert? Any last thought on the week that you had to make 60 crepes?
Yeah. Well, at this point, all the showstoppers are just marathons. Our bodies are starting to break down. Standing.
Have you made crepes again?
I did the other night actually for Pancake Tuesday. I busted out my crepe recipe and
60 of them.
I wasn't making 60 of them. No.
That's just unnecessary.
Exactly. That's excessive.
So next week's episode of Great Australian Bakeoff, we've got, I think, if from memory, there's going to be a lot of things missing from the bakes. So
it's the free from round.
Yeah, wait till I get to that. You think I ranted over pancakes and batter? So
If only
I'm a cake decorator. I can do.
free
Yeah.
froms.
one of the three of us on this would be perfectly fine with a week with like no sugar and no gluten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Gluten and sugar is my life.
yeah, the rest of it gluten and sugar would be lovely. That'd be great. Just pump us full of it. So
I'm telling you, I live very joyfully and don't miss either.
no, I didn't think you would, but you know, for those of us who are addicted, we're fine. So thank you.
I could very easily go gluten free tomorrow. Sugar free, now that's where I would struggle.
See, I'd struggle with a lack of gluten. I'd be okay with sugar. So interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
although
okay.
as a cake decorator, I'd be stuffed without gluten. So yeah, you get that.
I prefer savory. So
Yeah, I understand that. Maybe that's why I don't bother.
so thank you.
Because stevia and monk fruit icing just doesn't really cut the mustard.
I've got a recipe that like my fondant's gluten free. Most of the buttercream can be gluten free.
Oh, but not sugar free is what I mean.
No, you can't do it sugar free.
Exactly. That's where I get unstuck. So that's why I think maybe I'll leave the decorating to you and admire from afar.
This is the reason why it's a good week this week, is because, you know, I'm dreading the idea of getting to, you know, a week with like none of this available. Like Marcus's stack from tonight and Robert, your stack from tonight would be outlawed, and would be possible by prison time. I'm pretty certain in a world with just sugar and gluten free, you'd both just be locked up.
I can get away with like most things being free from, but I reckon my biggest crutch in cooking is probably salt. Like free from salt, that's where I'd really break down.
That's very unnecessary. I think salt aversion or salt allergy is extraordinarily rare. Like we need it to survive. So I think you're safe.
So
I have met some people. Yeah.
We've just found Elena's
What's
line.
that?
So
yeah, we did.
Elena's line is no gluten, no sugar, no salt, no, please, we need the salt. Don't take the salt.
Need the salt to boost the flavour. Anyway,
season that now. This has been an absolutely fantastic week to get to talk to both of you. Thank you both of you coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having us.
It's been wonderful.
It was wonderful talking to you again, Elena. I love your work. You're incredible.
Oh, so are you. As I said, every time your cakes come up in my feed, it just brings a smile to my face.
I've got to start cooking more of your recipes just because they're so incredible. I can't believe you did, 90-something recipes or more than 90 recipes, and nearly all of them gluten-free and all incredible.
Out of the 60 competition dishes, only 3 had gluten, and that would have very easily been substituted if I had access to the right stuff. I guess I was just determined to not have a stigma. Like, I don't think the judges ever went, oh, you can really taste the lack of gluten in this.
But that's what you love to cook, and that's the thing with these shows. If you stick with what you know and what you love, and you just do it to the best of your ability, it really comes through. People can taste that you love what you're cooking.
Yes, and because I won't be able to defend myself next week, I was I was also determined to not have anyone ever be cooked for and have to go, oh, I'm a vegetarian, I'm really sorry. Oh, I'm gluten-free, I'm really sorry. I'm like, why be sorry? I want everyone to be included. I want everyone to eat joyfully, and I don't want anyone to feel shame or embarrassment or anything for whatever they can't have. I was determined for everybody to have delicious food. So that's in defending myself in advance of whatever comes next week.
I'm Matcha, so it's all good. So, and on that, we might end it there. So I'm still Chris. Kristie will be back next week from her birthday retreat that she's been taking herself on for a couple of days. So again, I've already set it to obviously on Monday when it was her birthday, but just
Merry Kristiemas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's been the Kristiemas, the happiest week of them all. We may be going to the house that Matt Moran built this weekend for lunch, so that could be quite intriguing.
Oh, how gorgeous!
So that will be wonderful. So Merry Kristiemas to all. She will be back next week on the podcast, so you will get your weekly dose of the word felching. Look forward to that. And we will catch you all next week. See ya.
Bye.